The Sopranos finale is the most controversial ever, okay? Maybe not the most controversial, but in terms of the cultural impact it had at the time, it definitely is one of the most controversial finales ever. And we're looking back at it nearly 20 years later. Hey, I was a baby at the time, right? We're going to assess what happened and if this was a good ending or not. Make sure to leave your comments below on what you think happened. There's lots of theories surrounding this, so I'd be really interested to hear. But anyway, let's jump right into it. Before we do that, I do need to address some points. The hat. Now, this isn't a Tony Soprano hairline thing. This isn't me being in a boy band. It's cold, right? And I'm having a bad hair day. It happens to all of us, we all know. So no comments about the hat, please, unless you like it. Then leave a comment and let me know you like it. Also, the AJ comments. I do not look like AJ. And I will not tolerate any of this behaviour. I look nothing like AJ. So whatever you do not go down and comment, "Thank you, AJ, for your opinion." It's not funny. Okay, maybe it's a little funny, but come on. This boy has a chin strap. 100 likes and I'll get a chin strap too. So what are my thoughts on the series finale? First of all, I think it fits well into season 6, the final season. I really enjoyed season 6, the severity of it. The last few episodes were really tense, and the last episode as well I really liked, although some aspects of it did feel rushed. When they killed Bobby, I was kind of shocked. I knew they would kill Chris. It was spoiled to me, unfortunately. But Chris's death is something that, I should say spoiler warning, but come on, if you're clicking on this video. But Chris's death is something that, even though I knew it was coming, it made me really sad. I actually thought it was going to happen earlier in the show when Chris thought that Tony was running off with his woman, which, I mean, he kind of was. The way Chris was acting, and when Tony had a gun to his head, I thought this was going to be the end. It wasn't, and this death was just as tragic, but I think it almost would have had more impact if it happened then, to be honest. It would have made Tony look like an absolute mob boss as well, which he is. The finale is certainly one of the finales of all time. Again, finales can be hard to do, especially when you have a show as great as The Sopranos. And The Sopranos, it's not like Breaking Bad, which has quite a definitive ending. When you've got a whole mob family, you know, the show's almost, it's not a sitcom, but it definitely has some aspects of the sitcom in it. It could go on forever with the family, you know, with the mob as well. There's so many themes you can touch upon. And let's face it, if they did the series today, it would go on forever. But I think they ended it in the right spot. I don't think the cut to black was a good idea, not necessarily from a thematic point of view, but more so from a direction point of view. It just feels a bit off. It doesn't feel like a great ending. I'd rather him sort of look off into the distance and they play the Michael Bay music. I know that's a bit cheesy, but come on. The whole cut to black thing, it's a bit of a gag. I don't really like it. I might end this video like that though, just to annoy people. I did mention that in the season finale, there were some storylines that were concluded a bit too quick in my opinion. We don't see Phil for what feels like a few episodes, and Phil's death, while I understand the importance of it and the need for it to happen now, it felt a bit abrupt. It definitely felt out of place for me. I don't know if that's an opinion other people hold, but for me it just felt a bit too quick. I think Phil had more to tell in his story. I also think the tensions were really heating up in the episode before with Bobby's death and Tony Soprano being holed up in the house. I was hoping that there would be some sort of big, not necessarily like a big Marvel fight or anything, but I was hoping there would be some sort of big confrontation, and I don't feel like we got that. We didn't get that satisfying conclusion. Look, I know this is real life, that's not what you get in real life, and that's what the director's trying to show, but in my opinion, that's something I didn't really like. A lot of people think Tony died in the dinner scene. I'll be honest, in my first watching of the scene and the way I perceived it, I didn't get this impression. Obviously there are a few dodgy looking people who walk in, and to be fair, I wouldn't even say there are a few dodgy looking people. There's one guy who walks in who could possibly be the murderer if he does get murdered, in my opinion. This guy. Everyone else who walks in looks relatively innocent to me, and if anyone's saying these guys don't look innocent, that's just racism in my opinion. They look fine. I like this idea that Tony will always be looking over his shoulder, even though his enemies are dead. Phil's gone. You know, he's at his weakest at this point in the story. A lot of his friends are either wounded or dead. He has to rely on Paulie, which, I mean, do you want to rely on Paulie for your life? It was a real mistake getting rid of Chrissy, in my opinion, because Chrissy was loyal, and he could really use Chris in a moment like this. So for me, that's how I perceived it the first time. I see it as, he clearly is suspicious of the people walking in, and it's a concern for Tony that he's going to have to watch over his shoulder for the rest of his life. They also mention the informant. Obviously this doesn't go anywhere, but is a suggestion that if Tony does survive, it is very likely anyway that he'll be incarcerated, deservedly so. You know, he's a criminal, and that's how the justice system works. I did want to analyse if Tony did die, so I sort of tried to pause in on this last look he gives to camera. In my opinion, this is him just seeing Meadow walk into the room. I don't think he dies in this moment. He just looks a bit too chill. We're going to go through some real theories now, but do let me know what theories you have. Leave it in the comments. There's only one realistic theory that I could find in my research, and that is that this guy is Eugene Pontecorvo. There's a guy called Eugene in the first episode of season 6, and this guy is probably his brother, and he could have killed Tony. And that's my only likely theory. But is Tony dead? Because there is no confirmation of this, and although a lot of people seem to run with the fact that David Chase confirmed this, from my research, David Chase never did confirm this. And the reason people seem to have this understanding is because of an interview that David did in 2021, and this is what he said here. I mean, to be honest, again, I read this, and I think if you're saying that Tony's dead in this situation, you're just taking what he said out of context. He's saying in his original plan that Tony was going to die, but this isn't something that goes through. So I don't think this is even him suggesting that Tony died at all. And then, of course, David Chase made a comment a few days later that, you know, people never read into that sort of stuff, do they? But David Chase did make a sarcastic comment, obviously trying to suggest that what he said wasn't a fact that Tony died. So what are a few things that go into this Eugene Pontecorvo theory? The first is this conversation that he has with Bobby. They do actually mention this in the episode, I believe. Bobby is talking to Tony, and he tells Tony,
"You probably don't even hear it when it happens, right?
There's your friend in there on the wall."
Listen to us.
Basically that dying, you don't even know when it happens. You don't even hear it. It just all cuts to black. And if we are watching Tony's death from his perspective, this is what happens to us as the viewer. We don't get to see what happens, it just cuts to black. I don't know if this is backed up by science, I assume not. This is obviously a hint in my opinion, and there's obviously this 3 o'clock reference by Chris, I believe, earlier in the series, and this relates to this whole Eugene Pontecorvo theory. So we see Eugene Pontecorvo's brother, he's wearing a members only jacket. Members only refers to the episode Eugene Pontecorvo committed suicide in.
He tried to commit suicide.
Pretty cool jacket, by the way, but they're wearing the same jacket, and it's sort of insinuated that there's a gang of these men that maybe wear this jacket. So the theory is that he sees Tony and he's out to kill Tony, basically. A bit like how Eugene killed the man in the restaurant in public. But he's surprised that Tony is with his family, and so he goes to the bathroom to make a call, to get the green light on it, basically. And this is when he gets out of the bathroom and shoots Tony from the 3 o'clock angle. Now, I do think this theory is suggested by the producers, and I do think it is done on purpose, but I just don't believe it. I think Tony survives this, I really do. I don't think he gets shot, and if he does, it's kind of a sucky ending, definitely a really bad ending if he gets shot and we don't get to see it. I know David Chase said, oh, people just want to see Tony get shot, but I mean, if he does get shot, yeah, I want to see it because it's quite important. They do play the song Don't Stop Believing. I would play it for you, but I think YouTube would genuinely take down the video because they're horrible like that. But obviously, I think this is a wink to the audience. It's a wink to the idea of, if Tony's alive, whatever your theories are, don't stop believing that. I mean, that's how I see it, at least. I know other people have other theories on that. I did a little bit of research, to be honest, but there wasn't much else I could really find that I really thought was legitimate. But again, if you have your own theories, do leave a comment. I'd love to see what people think. See if you can influence me a bit, because I don't know if it's just people aren't talking about the finale anymore, but I really couldn't find much more than that. If you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I've got a few social medias now. I've got Instagram, I've got TikTok, I've got Twitter. Make sure to follow me on all of those. You know, I'm going to try and maybe be a bit more creative on there. And I've had a few message me on Instagram, for example, and on Discord. And I like communicating with you, if you're cool. If you're not, then I'm going to ignore you, and apologies for that. But do make sure to do that. Again, I hope you liked the video, and don't stop believing.